Hi, this is Munson with Munson Music, and I thought I'd do kind of an add-on to my lesson on Never Quit Loving You by Barber. It's kind of a fingerstyle idea. And normally with fingerstyle, you'd have your low E string or your thumb for kind of your basses on your D and your A and your E string. And then we'd have index finger kind of lined up on the G string, middle finger on the B string on the second, or on the B string, and ring finger on the high E string. So it's kind of like everybody's got a job. The thumb's job is to play the E and the A and the D string. Index finger's job is to play the G string. Middle finger's job is to play the B string. Ring finger's job is to play the high E string. And what can be very cool with this particular tune actually is to work kind of a 3/4 fingerstyle groove. And you kind of work thumb, index, middle, ring, and come back middle, index. Would kind of give you a 3/4. So, and normally you'd use classical abbreviations for these would be working off of Spanish abbreviations. So thumb is P, index is I, M is M for medio, ring finger is A. So if you hear me say P or A, I'm talking about the thumb or the ring finger. So you could kind of go thumb, index, middle, ring, middle, index, or P, I, M, A, M. I is traditionally what you would call that arpeggio in classical guitar playing. So on your intro, you may want to try and use that kind of that G major, and we were talking about the D/F sharp, and you could use the low E string for your bass with your thumb note, and then the same thing with the E minor, you'd have the low E string for your bass. And then on your D chords, normally you do D strings for your bass. So we're going to try that through our intro. We'd have G, D/F sharp, E minor with low E bass, D with D bass. So we or one for each chord actually. So we kind of tried that through our verse progression. We'd start with G major with a low E bass, and another G with low E bass, G7 with a low E bass, kind of making that G7 change. And then when you get to the C chord, you have the A string for your bass with a thumb, and another C. And then on the A or the A7, you'd have the A string for your bass. And then for our chorus, actually, we'd be going back to G major with the low E bass, B7 with an A bass, E minor with a low E bass, A major with an A bass, and then we'd have C major with an A bass, a D with a D bass, and then G major with a low E bass, and then D major with the D bass, kind of for that first chorus. And then from there we'd be going back into our verse part. So we've got the G, G7, G7 low E bass, C with an A bass, C with an A bass, A with an A bass, A with an A bass. And then from there we'd be going back into our second chorus. So we try our second chorus that way. We'd have G with low E bass, B7 with an A bass, E minor with a low E bass, A with an A bass, C major with an A bass, D with a D bass, G with a low E bass, and then the G7, which kind of sets us up for our bridge part. So then we tried our bridge part that way. We'd have E minor with low E bass, E minor with low E bass, B7 with an A bass, B7 with an A bass, G with a low E bass, G with a low E bass, A with an A bass, A with an A bass, C with an A bass, C with an A bass, B7 with an A bass, B7 with an A bass, A major with an A bass, A with an A, or an A7 with an A string bass, A7. And then we'd be going back into our chorus part, kind of with our two G's at the end. So we got G with low E bass, B7 with an A bass, E minor with low E bass, A with an A bass, C major with an A bass, D with a D bass, G with a low E bass, another G with low E bass. And then we'd be going into our solo part. So then we got the E minor with low E bass, B7 with an A bass, D with a D bass, A with an A bass, C with an A bass, D with a D bass, G with a low E bass, another G with low E bass. And then when we get to our chorus, actually with kind of the stops, you may want to try doing kind of all the fingers all together for those. Kind of G with kind of together, 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 B7 with together, 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 E minor with together, 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 and then I'm kind of killing the strings, actually kind of muting that out with my right hand, kind of killing the strings. Then you have C, D major, G major, G major, and then on our outro you'd have the C chord with that same kind of feel, and then a D major. And actually this is kind of weird, but if you do like kind of set all your fingers up kind of like a prepared thing, and kind of start with your thumb, and then kind of let your index finger and let the other fingers kind of follow your index finger. Actually, I'm thinking index finger moves, but I'm letting the sympathetic motion of my middle and my ring finger kind of follow it. You can almost get kind of a little roll sound with your right hand fingerstyle. So that might be kind of a cool thing to kind of shoot for on that. And then from there, we'd be going back into our intro part. So if we tried that with our fingerstyle, we got G with low E bass, D slash F sharp with low E bass, E minor low E bass, D with the D bass, G with low E bass, D slash F sharp with low E bass, E minor with low E bass, D with the D bass, G with low E bass, D slash F sharp with low E bass, E minor with low E bass, D with the D bass. And then we have a big G chord, and you can kind of try that kind of finger roll again, thumb, index, middle, ring, just kind of setting everybody up, and then thinking thumb, and then sympathetic motion with index, middle, ring. So you may want to kind of play around with that. But that's the basics of how you could fingerstyle through "Never Quit Loving You" by Jill Barber. Beautiful tune. So good luck.